Bonjour, this is Madame Veneman, and in this little video, I'm going to talk about what can I expect or what can students expect in French class this year. Okay, so number one is students can expect a very interactive class, a very interactive and communicative class, obviously, because we're learning a language. So we do things in this class like games, stories, skits, movements, videos, songs, all that kind of stuff. It's a very active class, which asks that students be very active, right? So it's very rare that we have a day where students are sitting, listening while the teacher lectures, right? That's not super common. I'm not going to say we never do that, but just very rarely, right? So the more interactive that students are, the better they're going to do. However, even though we like to have a lot of fun in this class, it still is an academic class, right? So that means there's still going to be homework, there's still going to be quizzes and tests and things like that. And I like to kind of warn people to start out with. I know sometimes some people think, oh, it's an elective, so that just means I'm going to get an A automatically. Well, that's not necessarily the case, right? Not everyone necessarily always gets an A in my classes, and firstly, that's okay, right? Okay, I tell my students all the time, I promise it is not the end of the world if you get a B, okay? Often do I have lots of students who do get A's? Yes, absolutely I do, right? Okay, but you have to work for it. You have to earn that grade, right? But I do also like to tell students in my classes, if you are trying in this class, you are not going to fail, right? Okay, and we talk about what does trying look like? You know, what is trying? That's like we've already kind of said, being actively engaged in class, asking questions, getting help if there's something you don't understand, getting your homework done on time. So if you're doing all of those things, even if foreign language isn't your cup of tea, even if you're doing all those things, you will not fail this class. That's for sure. All right, number three, the next thing you can expect in this class this year is listening, and more listening, okay? Listening is where language learning starts, and it's the most important skill in this class, right? I have talked many times with former students who have spent a year abroad studying either in France or in other foreign countries. And when they come back, I ask them, so how long did it take you to actually start speaking? And they usually say, about 3 or 4 months, you know. So the first few months of living in a new country, you're really just listening, and trying to understand and figure it out, right? And that is the most important skill in this class. I also talk about with students how listening means active listening, okay? Not just sitting there daydreaming, staring off into space, but it means every time that uh, myself or another student is saying something in French, you're thinking about it. You're trying to understand, okay, what is that person saying? Ooh, if I don't understand all of those words, what are some that I do understand? If I'm not sure, can I make an educated guess as to what the person is trying to say, right? So listening, very important skill in this class. All right, number four, what else can I expect in French class this year? Some homework, not a ton, but more than none, right? Okay, I would say on average, 2 homework assignments, maybe 3 a week is about what we average in my class. And oftentimes these homework assignments are online. So for instance, Quizlet, Kahoot, Gimkit, all those kind of websites I use fairly often. And that homework, I explain to the students, oftentimes it's whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it, right? So you can go onto Quizlet and flip through the flashcards in 5 seconds flat. And on the Quizlet website, it will mark that, okay, check, you did the Quizlet flashcard activity. However, if you're doing it that quickly, is that really going to help you to learn the vocab? No, of course not, right? So we talk a lot in my classes about putting in good effort on the homework, right? Okay. And number 5, last one, pop quizzes and tests. And this kind of makes people nervous at the start if they're not used to it. However, it's not that bad, I promise. All right. So I do not announce quizzes or tests in advance because I want to see what students have truly acquired in their long-term memory, right? That's the goal here, to really learn a language. We're talking, you've acquired it in your long-term memory. I'm not interested in finding out what a student can cram into their brain, short-term memorize, like right before a quiz, spit out on the quiz, and then forget right after that, okay? Because that's what often happens, right? So that is why I don't announce quizzes or tests in advance, because I want to see, okay, what have you really acquired, okay? But I do want to share as well that I am very, very in tune with my classes and with formative assessments as to where they are, how they're doing. And I always look at the statistics for my quizzes and tests, right? And my kind of benchmark is to get about 80% of the class earning an A, B, or C on a quiz or a test, right? And if something kind of crazy happens, like I look at the stats for a test and let's say 50% of the class failed that test. Oh, buddy, yeah, it doesn't happen that often, but every now and then, that we'll see that. And if something like that happens, chances are pretty good that I'm going to be throwing out that grade. We're going to be doing some reteaching, and then we're going to try it again, right? Because if we're getting that low of scores, that many people who aren't learning some material correctly then or properly, then definitely maybe we need to work on it some more, right? Another thing with pop quizzes and tests is that I always tell students that any thing that we do in class or any homework assignments that we have, those are the exact sort of things that they are going to be expected to be able to do on a quiz or a test, right? So if we're in class one day and we're doing an activity where Madame is telling parts of a story in French and the students are listening and drawing representations of what I've just read, hey, guess what? You might have to do that on a quiz or a test, right? Okay. Or another example, maybe you're given a Kahoot. Students have a Kahoot to do for homework where there's a sentence in French, there's a word missing, they're provided with a picture to kind of help figure out which vocab word goes in there, and then they have to type in that word in French. Well, hey, guess what? You might have to do something just like that on a quiz or a test. So I often emphasize pay attention to what we're doing in class and homework, because that's your practice time, right? That's your practice for quizzes and tests. Another thing that I also like to do is I do sometimes drop little hints here and there as to, hey, you might want to study tonight, right? So going back to number 3, listening, right? If you're listening, sometimes you might get those little hints to help you out as well. Okay, so that wraps up the what can I expect or what can students expect in French class this year. And I'm looking forward to a great year and having lots of fun in French this year. Merci, au revoir.